Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ram Vijay Prabhu. This is not. Who's the sound controller? It's not really loud enough. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, thank you. And Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you, Ram Vijay Prabhu, for the kind words. He said it's very auspicious. I was thinking, it's very suspicious that he said that. Yes, well, it is certainly a very glorious and wonderful occasion, the appearance day of Lord Nityananda Prabhu, who is the brother and most intimate associate of Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the most recent incarnation of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. Lord Chaitanya appeared about 500 years ago. What is it actually? 532 years ago. His appearance day is coming up in about a month or thereabouts, 4 weeks, 3-4 weeks. Lord Chaitanya appeared in order to establish the Yuga Dharma, the main process of religion for this age of Kali, which is the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. Actually, could I just ask someone to do a small thing? See these beautiful microphone stands which are enhancing the view? Maybe someone could move them, isn't that nice? Oh, anyway, okay. Just so we can see where we're going. Yes, so the Yuga Dharma, the process of religion for this age of Kali, the age we are in right now, is the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. Harir Nam, Harir Nam, Harir Nam Eva Kevalam. Kalo Nasjeva, 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 Gatir Anyata. This is a very famous verse from scripture, Brihanaradiya Purana, in which it's said that one must chant the holy names, chant the holy names, chant the holy names of Hari, Krishna. In this Kali Yuga, in this age, there's no other way to achieve the goal of life. That is the process for this current age we're in. Anyone who's teaching something else doesn't really understand clearly enough. Because anything else, be it even worship of the deity, even fire, yajna, even some silent meditation, these are all very well-known activities, and in different places in the Vedic scriptures they're also explained and some emphasis is given, but it is also made clear that in this age we're in, not that those activities are wrong, of course they're not wrong, they're very wonderful and important activities for other times, in universal terms, other times, in other ages. Of course, we are doing deity worship here, as you can see, and it is important. But still it is secondary to the chanting of the holy names. That's a fact. It's secondary. And people, sometimes you find people who are very attached to worship of deities, but they're not involved, or involved much, or even perhaps not involved at all in the chanting of the holy names, particularly serious chanting, trying to absorb oneself in chanting on an ongoing basis. So those people, even though they may be doing quite nice deity worship, but gradually, because this age of Kali is so detrimental and it undermines good qualities so easily and so quickly. So even people who are doing deity worship quite nicely, but they're not engaged in the chanting of the holy names of the Lord, after a while their deity worship will at least deteriorate. It may even stop. I mean, there's so many examples of where that's happened, because in this age, without the chanting of the holy names, no other activity will really sustain you spiritually and keep you going and keep you developing in spiritual life, in Krishna consciousness. So Lord Chaitanya is the most recent incarnation of Krishna. As we said, what is it now? It is 14 and 19. It's actually 533 years ago, coming up in 2 or 3 or 4 weeks. Lord Chaitanya, the most recent incarnation of Krishna, and he taught and he demonstrated this very vividly and just on a daily basis. He was going out in public and chanting the holy names and involving other people in that. So he is Krishna, Lord Chaitanya, most recent incarnation of Krishna, and whenever Krishna appears, then he appears with all his, or not all, but many of his eternal associates. Krishna is never alone, ever. In fact, Srila Prabhupada made the point, if you ever see a picture of Krishna, you know, in India there's thousands of pictures of Krishna all over. But if you ever see a picture of Krishna alone, it's not really valid. It's not really valid. Krishna's never alone. There's always devotees with Krishna. And whenever he comes to this world, same thing. He doesn't come alone. He comes with his main associates. So amongst the main associates of Krishna is Lord Balaram. We chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So that Rama, that can be taken to be, well, they're different. There's a number of different forms of the Lord who have the name Rama in different ways. One of them is Balarama, the brother of Krishna. Of course, there's Lord Ramachandra. There's also Lord Parasurama in Sanskrit pronunciation, Balarama. So when we are chanting Hare Rama, then it can be taken to refer to Lord Balaram, or Lord Ramachandra, or Lord Parasuram, or all three. No problem at all. That's just fine and wonderful. However, it is a fact that in a sort of transcendental hierarchical sense, different levels of even different forms of the Lord, that of those three, Balaram, Ramachandra, Parasuram, Lord Balaram is on the highest level, actually, even more than Lord Ramachandra, who is, at least in modern day society, is perhaps better known. Yes, but Balaram is the first expansion of Lord Krishna. And he is Krishna's brother. They are together constantly, practically. So, therefore, Lord Balaram knows Krishna better than anyone, except perhaps Srimati Radharani, who is Krishna's internal pleasure potency. So the two of them, Balaram and Srimati Radharani, they are considered and they are referred to as the original gurus. Because what does guru mean? What is a guru? In the real sense of the term, a real guru is someone who knows Krishna and can convey that effectively to others, and in that way help people reawaken their forgotten relationships with Lord Krishna. So Balaram is his brother. They're together all the time, all day, every day. They are practically inseparable. So he knows Krishna. He knows Krishna. Therefore, he's the original guru. Shri Shri Dayal Nitai Gora Hari Ki. And Srimati Radharani is part of Krishna. She is part of his internal nature, the pleasure potency. So she also knows Krishna. And so she can also be considered original guru. So when Lord Krishna appears within this world, sometimes he comes in his original form as he did 5,000 years ago. Sometimes he comes in other forms, depending on what is required to be done. So, sometimes though he comes as Lord Chaitanya, in the Kali Yuga, Lord Chaitanya, who is directly Krishna himself in person, except he is the combined form of Radha and Krishna. Normally Krishna is there, Radharani, even though she's part of him, but for the sake of the pastimes, she is positioned external to him as a separate person, and they have so many different interpersonal exchanges and relationships. In this case, Srimati Radharani, the internal pleasure potency, has again entered Krishna, and therefore it's said, Mahaprabhu Sri Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nahe Anya, means that Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is none other than Radha and Krishna. Therefore Lord Chaitanya is gold-colored, gold, like molten gold, not just gold that, as you may find in some jewelry which people use, but effulgent, molten gold. It has an effulgence, a richness of its own. Yes. So, he is Krishna, but covered by the mood of Srimati Radharani. And covered by the mood doesn't mean we've taken away her mood and now given it to him, but it means she is there. She is there. They're both there. And Krishna, as Lord Chaitanya, is sort of exploring, you could say, the nature of Srimati Radharani. So when Krishna comes, so many people come, eternal associates, but the main, or one of the main amongst them, is Balaram, his brother and first expansion. And this applies when Krishna appears in any form, practically, at least so many, that Lord Balaram comes with him, although he may go by another name. When Krishna appeared as Lord Ramachandra, Lord Balaram appeared as Lakshman. But it was still the same type of relationship. Brothers. They were brothers. And Lakshman was assisting Lord Ram in different ways in his pastimes. So when Krishna came as Lord Chaitanya, Balaram came too. And Balaram came as Lord Nityananda. And as Lord Nityananda, Lord Balaram was in the same mood of servant. He was in the mood of servant. Actually, it's said, Srila Jiva Goswami, one of our great acharyas, spiritual teachers, also more or less from the time of Lord Chaitanya, plus or minus 500 years ago, he says that if you ask Krishna, who is God? Krishna, with his index finger, otherwise known or sometimes known as pointing finger. Anyway, Krishna points to his chest and says, me. Not me, Krishna. Yes. Not mincing words. No, yeah, just straightforward. Who's God? Me. It's true. Of course, we shouldn't do that unless it's true with us. But, Srila Jiva Goswami says, if you ask Lord Balaram who is God, Lord Balaram says, Krishna. He can say me also. No problem. It would be quite right. But he is in a different mood. Even though he's the same person, he's displaying a different personality to some degree, to quite some degree. Different personal characteristics. Yeah. So particularly, Lord Balaram is in that mood of being the servant and following him. When he appears as Lord Nityananda is also in the mood of being the servant of Lord Chaitanya. So there's a nice little description in Chaitanya Charitamrita of when Lord Nityananda was staying in Jagannath Puri with Lord Chaitanya just shortly after, or even more or less immediately after Lord Chaitanya took sannyas, renounced order of life. He left Mayapur, Navadvip area. He left there and went to Jagannath Puri. And it's a bit of a long story what happened, but he stayed there for some time. And Lord Nityananda was with him also for some time. And Lord Nityananda, when he was not with Lord Chaitanya just face to face, he would wander around Jagannath Puri singing a song. Or it's just a little verse, actually. It's like his theme song. You know, when two people, they get together and there's a nice song playing, sometimes they say, it's our song. And later, if they hear it, they think, they're playing our song. So that's all right. So Lord Nityananda's song is very simple. Chaitanyera Das Amuni. Chaitanyera Das. Chaitanyera Das Amuni. Dasa Dasera Das. You know, if you've been involved in Krishna consciousness for a little while, you would understand that quite easily. Chaitanyera. Well, that's a grammatical point. In Bengali, when you put era on the end of a noun, it becomes of that. So Jivera, Swaruphoya, Krishnera, Nityadas, the Swarup or constitutional, most fundamental, intrinsic nature of the Jiva, Jivera, of the Jiva. What is it? Krishnera, Nityadas, to be the eternal servant, Krishnera of Krishna. So Chaitanyera Das Amuni. I am the servant of Lord Chaitanya. Chaitanyera Das. Chaitanyera Das Amuni. Dasa Dasyera Das. You follow? Do you follow? Or have I lost you in the whirlpool of Bengali grammar? I'm the servant of Lord Chaitanya. I'm the servant of Lord Chaitanya. I'm the servant of Lord Chaitanya. And Dasa, I'm the servant, Dasyera, of his servant Das, and his servant too. Yeah, this is his mood. And he would just wander around Jagannath Puri, just singing this song. And everyone would know, it's Lord Nityananda coming. So that's the mood of Lord Nityananda, very deeply. Now, I want to read a couple of verses. First of all, I'm going to read a verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela, chapter 1, means right at the beginning of the book, and it's a vast book. First chapter is titled The Spiritual Masters. Verse 7. It is the first of 5 verses. Actually, we read them this morning. We had a class here earlier today. There's 5 verses in the first chapter of the book which are defining who is Lord Nityananda, what's his position, what is he about. This is the first one. It's verse 7. Sankarshana Karanatoya Shai, Garboda Shai Chapayobdi Shai, Sheshyas Chayasyamsha Kalasa Nitya, Nandakya Rama Sharanam Mamastu. May Sri Nityananda Ram be the object of my constant remembrance. Sankarshan, Sheshanaga, and the Vishnus who lie on the Karana ocean, Garbha ocean, an ocean of milk, are his plenary portions and the portions of his plenary portions. So that's sort of like a foundational type of verse. Who is Lord Nityananda? What's he about? I wanted to read a few other verses, though, which are, in an interesting way, giving insight into the nature of Lord Nityananda and into the nature of Lord Balaram, because they're the same person. To really understand Lord Nityananda, among other things, one of the really important things you've got to do is understand Lord Balaram, because they're the same person. We just mentioned how Lord Balaram is in that mood of servant. Who Krishna's asked, who are you? Who is God? He says, me. Balaram, if he's asked that, he says, Krishna. So Lord Balaram, let's just, for a few moments, say something about Lord Balaram. Lord Balaram is so much in the mood of service to his brother Krishna that Lord Balaram, he does all sorts of rather fantastic, in fact, completely fantastic things. For example, listen to this, devotees. Are you listening? Are you all there? Everyone's here? Everyone's awake? No one's passed away? Everyone's alive? Lord Balaram is so much in the mood of service. He does, among a few other incredible things, he expands himself as the spiritual world. Haribol. That's, that's big. That's awfully big. Yes, the spiritual world is simply based on the energy of Lord Balaram. Not exactly the energy of Krishna. Of course, Balaram's energy is the energy of Krishna. But in a slightly different sense, which is valid, Balaram's energy is Balaram's energy. And it's not exactly Krishna's energy. So as a service to Krishna, Balaram expands as the spiritual world, Goloka Vrindavan, the Vaikuntha realms. Then he expands as the main presiding deities of those realms, Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. We will keep it relatively simple. He then, a bit later, expands into the material world. Yes, the material world is situated on the energy of Lord Balaram. And then as we read, I don't know if you really caught it, but he expands as the three famous Vishnus who are overseeing the material world. They're all forms of Balaram. They're not independent personalities just there of their own accord. They are forms of Balaram. Means Karnadakshay Vishnu, also known as Mahavishnu. Then Garbhadakshay Vishnu. Well, Karnadakshay Vishnu, Mahavishnu, is overseeing the material realm, all the different universes which it consists of. In each universe, the universes come from Mahavishnu. In each universe is an expansion of himself called Garbhadakshay Vishnu. And from Garbhadakshay Vishnu, from his navel, grows a lotus flower. And on the actual lotus flower on top, on the lotus flower itself, Lord Brahma appears, the first created being, so to speak, in the material world. And then he engineers the material world as we're familiar with it. All the planets, all the species of life, That's all engineered from ingredients supplied by Garbhodakshai Vishnu. Then within every atom, within everyone's heart, including yours and mine, and in fact in every atom in this universe, is another form of the Lord called Kshirodakshai Vishnu, who is expanded from Garbhodakshai Vishnu, who's expanded from Mahavishnu, who's expanded from Sankarshan actually, who's expanded from Balaram. Are you still with me, or is it a bit otherwise? It's interesting. So, yeah. So this is all happening. This is all coming from Balaram. Yes. And if Balaram makes the decision, which he won't, but if he did, that I think I'm just going to forget about the material world, it's just obliterate it, then that would be it. And it would be beyond the control of Mahavishnu and the other Vishnus. So Balaram is a very important person, and he's doing all these things for the pleasure of Krishna as a service. He's expanding into the spiritual world to create facilities, venues, situations where Krishna can enjoy pastimes. And then he's expanded this into this material world and set up the sort of management structure to reform those wayward living entities who've decided they wanted to enjoy independently from Krishna. So he's expanded this material world and organized it in such a way that eventually they become reformed. And then they can go back to Krishna, as we say, back to Godhead. And devotees, one and all, that means us, wayward. In Russian, if someone is wayward, they often call him a bandit. We just got back from Russia yesterday. It's still on my mind. So we are all bandits, so to speak. We may think, oh, I'm a nice person, I'm working, I have a family, I pay my taxes, and I'm a good guy. Sorry, you're a bandit. A wayward, conditioned soul lost in this material world, all based on the idea that we want to enjoy independently. And despite our best efforts, don't we try hard? We should get at least 9 out of 10 for trying hard to enjoy independently. But despite all of that, we have failed. And if you fail to enjoy, then you get into trouble with Maya Devi. You get kicked. Anyway, that's another thing. So yeah, this is all being done and organized and overseen by Lord Balaram for these different purposes. In the spiritual world, to facilitate Krishna's enjoyment, and in the material world, to facilitate the correction of the conditioned souls, so they can go back and be proper devotees with Krishna in the spiritual world. So I was mentioning these things in the context of Lord Balaram, how he is serving in so many ways. But he does more than that. Listen to this, devotees. This is interesting. Balaram expands himself as Krishna's house. Whenever you see Krishna or any form of Krishna and he has a house or a palace or something, you must know that is a form of Lord Balaram. Yeah. Balaram expands himself as Krishna's clothes. Would you believe? Krishna's nice, shiny, golden-colored, yellowy, golden-colored silk dhoti. It is a form of Lord Balaram. Krishna's shoes are forms of Lord Balaram. Krishna's bed, Krishna's chairs, all these things, Krishna's umbrella. These are all forms of Lord Balaram, and various other things too. Why? How is it that? Because he is so much enthusiastic, unstoppably to serve Krishna. And he expands even in other rasas. Like he is in the conjugal rasa, would you believe? Like a girlfriend of Krishna is Ananga Manjari, the younger sister of Srimati Radharani, is a form of Balaram. Then amongst the cowherd boys, Subal is a type of a form of Balaram. Garuda is a type of form of Balaram. Yeah. And he himself is in a parental mood because he's the older brother. He's the older brother. Yeah. There's an interesting story. Well, actually, there's a whole lot of interesting stories. But you may know, if you're up on Ram Leela at all, you may know that in Ram Leela, Lakshman was the younger brother. Are you with me? Yes. Yes. But as Balaram and as Nityananda, well, as Balaram, he's also the older brother, but he's the older brother, but only by a very short period of time. But as Nityananda, he is the older brother by 12 years. He's really substantially older. And there's a very interesting story behind that. In fact, that's what I was going to read from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Let's do it. This is now Adi Leela, chapter 5, the glories of Lord Nityananda Balaram. And we'll read a few verses from verse 149. Nityananda Swarupa Purave Haya Lakshmana Lagu Brata Haya Kare Ramira Sevan. Lagu Brata. Brata means brother. Lagu means younger. Lord Nityananda Swarup formerly appeared as Lakshman and served Lord Ramachandra as his younger brother. Ramira Charitra Sabha Dukera Karan Swatantra Lilaya Duka Sahena Lakshmana. You know what Duk means, don't you? Don't you? Well, not if you're Tamil, I suppose. But if you have some knowledge of Hindi, it's a popular word. Suffering. One of my godbrothers was married to a young woman of some sort of Slavic extraction. Her first name was Tamara, and her family name was Duke. I'm completely serious. I'm totally serious. And I was there when he introduced her to a nice Gujarati family who understood the language. This is my wife, Tamara Duke. And they looked at him like, what? And you could see they're almost laughing. They're straining not to laugh. The activities of Lord Ram were full of suffering. But Lakshman, of his own accord, tolerated their suffering. Nisheda karite nare yate chotabai monadari rahe Lakshman mane dukkha pai. As a younger brother, he could not stop Lord Ram from his resolution. And so he remained silent, although unhappy in his mind. Krishna avatare jeshta hayala sevar karan Krishna ke karayala nana sukha asvadan. When Lord Krishna appeared, he, Balaram, became his older brother to serve him to his heart's content and make him enjoy all sorts of happiness. So, okay, that's the basic idea here. You know, if you're familiar with Ram Leela, you would know that there were 3 occasions when Lakshman felt strongly that my older brother Ram has made wrong decisions, which I would not have made, and therefore he thought, I should be the older brother. Why am I the younger brother? It's not working. First was when Sita was kidnapped. Lord Ram went to chase the deer, if you remember, who was a form of, what was his name? Marichi? Yeah, the magician. And Lakshman told him, Lord Ram's about to run off chasing the deer. And Lakshman told him, listen, this is a trick. When did you last meet a talking deer? It's a trick. This is some mystical creature, some witchcraft, some muti, bad muti is going on. Don't do it. But Sita was saying, no, I want the deer. And Lord Ram was off to get the deer, but Lakshman told him, don't do it. Stop. But Ram went. And you know what happened, don't you? It's a bit of a long story, but Sita got kidnapped. And Ram came back and blamed Lakshman. You were meant to protect Sita. But he couldn't. He couldn't. He was forced to go and try to locate Lord Ram. I mean, it's all a bit of a long story, but if you know the story, you would know he was forced against his will. And then Ram came back and chastised him. Why did you not stay with Sita? Now she's kidnapped. And Lakshman was thinking, listen, older brother, listen, all right. I was the one who told you, don't go after the deer. But you insisted. It was a wrong decision. But you're the older brother, what could I do? Because older brother is sort of like father. Then the next one was when they rescued Sita, and then she had to walk through the fire. And Lakshman said to Lord Ram, why are you doing this? You don't need to do this. What's the question of whether she's pure or not? Of course she's pure. Don't do it. Don't do it. There's no need. And Lakshman actually said, build a fire. Who's going to do that? No one's going to do that because they all know Sita's pure. And Ram said, right, Lakshman, you're wrong. Someone will do it. You will do it because you're the younger brother. Do it. And he had to do it. Although he was thinking, what a decision. I would never have done this if I was the older brother. And then the third time was when Sita was banished. And Lord Ram was saying, I've got to banish her because people are talking. And Lakshman said, listen, don't worry about the people, let them talk. But you can't banish her. What has she done to deserve it? Nothing. It's the wrong thing. And who's going to take her to the forest? No one will do it. And Ram said, someone will do it, Lakshman. You will do it. And he had to take her and just sort of dump her in the forest. So that was it. 3 times and you're out. That was the 3rd time. Even Prabhupada wrote a letter. It was one of the first letters I saw when I joined the temple. And it said that if someone is trying Krishna consciousness, but they do something wrong, we may give them another chance. And even a 2nd time if they do something wrong. But if they do something wrong a 3rd time, then they can't stay in the temple. So 3rd time means you're out. And that's what Lakshman thought. That this is it, I've had it. Next time, I will be the older brother. And not you. Because you just can't sort of manage things sometimes. It gets too intense for you. So, when Krishna and Balaram appeared, Balaram was the older brother. But not by much. Not by much. And as a result, certain things happened which made Balaram think, I should be an older brother. Like the Kaliya incident, Balaram was not present. The stealing of the cowherd boys and calves, Balaram was not present. Because these things happened on his birthday. He was having a birthday party at home with his mother. And Balaram, when those things happened, he thought, wait a minute. I'm not old enough. I'm not senior enough to really assert myself. I'm going to be older brother. So then he appeared as Lord Nityananda. And when he was here as Lord Nityananda, at least a lot of the time, he really supervised Lord Chaitanya. He really looked after Lord Chaitanya as a really older brother, like a very parental type of older brother. But in the same mood that I'm just doing it as a service, not that because I'm older I'm better. This is Lord Nityananda. And there are many pastimes. Lord Nityananda, he appeared in a place called Ekachakra. It is still there. It's north, kind of northwest of Mayapur, on the other side of the Ganges, kind of slightly in the direction of Bihar, sort of thing, a bit. A few hours drive to the northwest of Mayapur, where Lord Chaitanya appeared. So he appeared there. And when he appeared, because he is the Supreme Lord, it was very amazing. He appeared in a form which was also somewhat golden. Somewhat golden. Not quite as much as Lord Chaitanya, but somewhat golden. And therefore, as a child, he was extremely attractive. Everyone wanted to embrace him and hold him. You know what grannies are like, right? And aunties. They like to do these types of things. Everyone had to hold Nityananda. And sometimes they would wonder, is he a baby or is he a doll made of golden butter? It was just so beautiful. And as he grew up, he started a very amazing program with all the other village children. That program was of putting on dramas. Every day, the children would gather, go somewhere in the neighborhood, and what would they do? They would do a drama. That's what they do. And those dramas, they were all Krishna Leela. Krishna Leela, sometimes Ram Leela. That's all. And they did those dramas so amazingly. The adults would stop what they were doing and just come and watch the dramas. And this all started before Lord Nityananda went to school. So he hadn't had any formal education yet, not that he needed it. But at the age of like 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, they're doing these intricate dramas every day, all day, of different Krishna Leelas. They built a prison house out of like bamboos or some sort of childish creation like that. And Krishna appeared there. Then Vasudeva, the father from the prison house pastime, took Krishna across the Yamuna. They have a Yamuna river there in Ekachakra, actually. Small river. Yeah, and then he exchanged Krishna for the female child of Yashoda and brought the female child back. That whole pastime in intricate detail. And every pastime killing different demons. Some child would be dressed up as a demon, as Putana, Agasura, Bakasura, all these different people. And they would act out the parts just brilliantly. So the whole village would stop. No one would work. They just come and watch the dramas. And they couldn't say anything. They just spellbound. All they could say was, how does Nityananda know all these pastimes? They did that pastime, Ram Leela, where during the battle, where Ravana knocks Lakshman unconscious with the Shakti Shila weapon. You know that pastime? Lord Nityananda was Lakshman because he is Lakshman. And again, the whole village has stopped just watching the drama. And the people were saying, how does he play Lakshman so nicely? I can't believe it. But then he got hit by the weapon and knocked unconscious. And the boys are trying to revive him, but he can't be revived. And then someone remembered, oh, that's right. Hanuman has to go and bring the herbs from, what's it called? Gandhamadana, is it? Anyway, whatever it's called, that mountain. So Hanuman went. It's a long story. It's a long drama. It went on for hours. Hanuman went, met different demons on the way, got to the hill, couldn't remember. What am I looking for, actually? Some herb, right? What was it? So he just brought the whole hill back. Sanjeevani. And then Lakshman was revived. So this went on for years. Finally, when he was 12 years old, right at the time Lord Chaitanya appeared in Mayapur, Navadvip area, Lord Nityananda, 12-year-old child, left home on pilgrimage with some saintly person who came by. And his father, Hadai Pandit, asked the saintly person, what would you like? Tell me what you like. I'll give you whatever you want. And the saintly person said, oh, well, okay, thank you. Let me take Nityananda. So he took Lord Nityananda. And then the whole village, stopped, but in a different way. The whole village broke down. And people left, and it became a ruins. And when Mother Janava, the main wife of Lord Nityananda, visited there, after Lord Nityananda's disappearance, there was only one person living there, one elderly devotee who took her around to all the places. So he went on pilgrimage. Again, it's a long story. But some 16 years later, 16 to 20 years later, just when Lord Chaitanya was beginning the Sankirtan movement, Lord Nityananda, he's wandering all over India from Badrinath in the north down to Kanyakumari in the south. He went to all these places. So many of these places, if you go to them, you should know Lord Nityananda went there. Badrinath he went to. Vyasa's cave at Badrinath, he went and he met Vyas. So at the time Lord Chaitanya started the Sankirtan movement, he was plus or minus 16 or something like that. Lord Nityananda was in Vrindavan. He was actually at Radhakund. And when Lord Chaitanya started the Sankirtan movement, Lord Nityananda let out a loud roar which could be heard around the entire planet, devotees, including here in Pietermaritzburg. Yes. Even up here along Bombay Road. Have they changed it to Mumbai Road? No. Anyway, that's okay. You still hear people in India talking about Bombay this and Bombay that. Yeah. So if you go back through the old records, what's the name of the local paper? Huh? That? Tal? Or Natal Witness? Natal. KwaZulu-Natal. Okay. If you go back through the archives 500 years ago, you'll find a report. Loud roar was heard. Everything shook, and no one could tell what it was. That was Lord Nityananda roaring. And some people were wondering, is it a bird? Is it a plane? What is it? What is it? But the devotees understood it is Lord Nityananda, the Lord of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, roaring in ecstasy. So then he returned to Bengal, actually not just to Bengal, he went to Navadvip, to Mayapur, to join Lord Chaitanya. Yes. And there's very beautiful description in Chaitanya Bhagavat particularly of the meeting of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, like their first meeting. Yeah. In that appearance of themselves. that Lord Chaitanya woke up one morning and told some of his associates, Haridas Thakur and one or two others, I had this amazing dream. This godly personality, dressed in blue, with a turban on his head, holding a plow on his shoulder. And would you believe, listen to this, fasten your seatbelts, particularly the gentlemen, with an earring in his left ear. Whoa, it is bona fide. Sort of. If you're Lord Nityananda. Yeah, he came to our town here, Navadweep. And he was going around asking, knocking on people's doors. Can you tell me where is the house of Nimai Pandit? And going around and around asking. But he couldn't find me. So he told Haridas Thakur and his associates, please go out, find this person. I think he's very important. Actually, in the dream, the person in the dream, Lord Nityananda, had said, I'm his brother. I'm looking for him. So the devotees went out and searched. They knocked on every door. There were no visitors from sort of outside the region. They reported back to Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya said, no. Come with me. And he took them to the house of Nandan Acharya. They opened the door. There was Lord Nityananda sitting inside. And he and Lord Chaitanya just looked at each other, completely just absorbed, just staring at each other for some time. And then they embraced, crashed to the ground, embracing for a long time. I don't know when was the last time you embraced someone, but did you ever embrace more than for 10 seconds? I saw someone embrace in the temple room this morning for 5 seconds. They embraced for a few hours. And the devotees didn't know what to do, so they just started a quiet kirtan. And then Lord Chaitanya came back to external consciousness and introduced Lord Nityananda to everyone and explained the glories of Lord Nityananda to everyone. And they were just astonished. And then Lord Nityananda became part of the team. Part of the team. The program was Harinam Sankirtan. From morning to night, and then through the night sometimes. I remember when I first joined, we had morning program, then we had breakfast. After breakfast, maybe 9:30, program was Harinam. If you were sort of half lame or kind of somewhat useless, then you cooked or you were a pujari. But if you were sort of fit, normal health, you just went out on Harinam, down the main street of London. And when we got to the end, we came back. And when we came back, we went back to the end until it was lunch at 1 o'clock. We came back for lunch. 2:30 or so, we're back out, down the main street. This is the program. This was Lord Chaitanya's program. Harinam Sankirtan, morning to night. And Lord Nityananda was there. When Lord Chaitanya took sannyas, Lord Nityananda went with him. to Katwa, across the river and to the north, not very far, but maybe 50 kilometers or something, 30 kilometers. So Lord Nityananda was there when Lord Chaitanya took sannyas. After Lord Chaitanya took sannyas, he said to Nityananda, "Take me to Vrindavan," because Lord Nityananda had been there and had spent time there. He had just come back from there, a few years before, and he knew the way. He knew how to get to anywhere practically in India. So Lord Chaitanya said to Nityananda, "Take me to Vrindavan." Lord Nityananda said, "Hari Bol, let's go for it." And off they went. But Lord Chaitanya had never been anywhere outside the Navadvip Mayapur area. He'd never been anywhere at all. Pretty much, at least. So he didn't know where they were going. Lord Nityananda was taking him back to Navadvip to meet the devotees, all the devotees he'd known for so many years, and including his mother. Lord Nityananda was taking him back, but he told Lord Chaitanya, "We are going to Vrindavan." They're walking along the Ganges, and Lord Chaitanya asked him, "Oh, is this the Yamuna?" "Yes, this is the Yamuna." He tricked him. And eventually he sent a message to Advaita Acharya. I don't know how exactly. I don't know if he used an old form of WhatsApp. But he sent a message to Advaita Acharya. "We are coming. We're walking along the Ganges. Get a boat and come and pick us up." So Advaita Acharya did that. And suddenly Advaita Acharya is there. And Lord Chaitanya was so surprised. He said, "Really? What are you doing here in Vrindavan?" And Advaita told him, "Actually, you've arrived in Navadvip," and took him to his home. And then Lord Chaitanya met with all the devotees again, and for the last time with his mother. Then they went to Jagannath Puri. Lord Chaitanya had new sannyas danda. He's a new sannyasi. Off they go down towards Puri. One day, Lord Nityananda took the sannyas danda of Lord Chaitanya, broke it in half, and threw it in the river. Haribol. And Lord Chaitanya, when he found out, he got really upset. "What did you do that for?" And Lord Nityananda said, "You don't need such things. You're beyond all these varnashram things." So there are many pastimes of Lord Nityananda, and we're already over time. Let me tell you one pastime. It's a really nice pastime. It's one of my favorites. Lord Nityananda went to Puri with Lord Chaitanya, but then after some time, Lord Chaitanya ordered him, "Come back to Bengal and preach the Sankirtan movement." And he did that. And he went all over Bengal and what is now northern Orissa, with Sankirtan and preaching in different ways. Lord Nityananda. Lord Nityananda externally appeared, you could say, a little eccentric or just very different. He wore very expensive clothes and wore lots of valuable jewelry, like kilos of gold, and diamonds and emeralds and rubies and you name it. Really, on his ankles, on his arms, on his neck, from his ears, on his head. Really, he was not a conservative type of person. And he'd go on Harinam with all these things jingling and shining and moving, and because he would dance wildly. And devotees, one day, one chief of the dacoits saw Lord Nityananda with all this jewelry, just like massive. Now we're talking probably of millions and millions of dollars worth of jewelry. And this chief of the dacoits told his friends, dacoit meaning criminal, that this is it. We will be able to retire after this job. Don't they make movies about criminals who want to do one last job and then retire? I think I've heard of such things. So yeah, just let's do this one job and we can all retire for the rest of our lives. Okay. So as it happened, Lord Nityananda was staying at the house of Nandan Acharya, who he stayed with when he first arrived. So it was late at night. They're having a kirtan, some devotees are there, programs going on, and the dacoits arrive, well, nearby. And they gather in the forest, just around the garden of Nandan Acharya. And they're all enthusiastic, right, let's do it, let's go. Okay, right, let's just sit down for a minute and we'll plan it. Okay, let's plan it. Sat down. Next moment, it was the next morning, they had fallen asleep. The sun had risen. How did that happen? Something mystical was going on. They came back the next night. That night, they're ready. They're not going to sit down. Then they saw, walking up and down in front of the house, these big guards, huge, like 8 feet tall, giants, and just made of muscle. And they had big tilak, like giant-sized tilak, and weapons. And they're marching up and down. And when they met, they would salute and say, Haribol! And the dacoits are looking at these guys and thinking, just one of them could kill all of us. So they slunk away. They came back a little later, a couple of days. No one was there, except in the house. The devotees are having kirtan. It's a perfect night, not a cloud in the sky. And they're ready. Let's do it. So out they come to run across the lawn to the house. Suddenly, a massive storm out of nowhere just appeared and just devastated them. Hailstones this size. Can you imagine landing on your head? On your car? Rain falling like in pillars. It was like the Govardhan Leela practically. Some of them, just in a matter of like 25 meters, they got lost. And they fell in a ditch full of scorpions. And they were just being consumed by the scorpions. Some others fell into a thorn tree with thorns like razor blades. So if you just move, you just get ripped to pieces, and they're just stuck there. And another group fell into a rubbish hole, which was full of leeches, blood-sucking little creatures. Ugh. And they just, and the storm at the same time, they're just about to die. And the chief dacoit understood what the people say about this Nityananda. It must be true. He must be God. I must surrender to him. I want to surrender. So when he made that decision, the storm vanished. And he was freed from whatever he was caught in. And he just ran into the house and just dived at the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda, crying out, "Save me, save me, save me." And Lord Nityananda accepted him as a member of his group of devotees. And Lord Nityananda gave that devotee a special service. He was the chief of the dacoits. Means he's a big, heavy killer criminal. The real thing. Lord Nityananda told him, go and visit all the dacoits in Bengal and make them into devotees. So he did. He would just go visit the dacoits in their homes all over Bengal, knock on the door, they open the door. It's the chief of the dacoits. Oh my God, I'm in trouble. And he would tell them, just chant Hare Krishna, become a devotee, come with us on Harinam. So soon he had a huge Harinam party. And they were called the Dacoit Vaishnavas. And they did this heavy kirtan. Heavy kirtan. Boom, boom, boom. And when people would hear them coming, kirtan's coming as boom, 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 heavy drumming and heavy voices, people would know, here come the Dacoit Vaishnavas. Yes. So they were a famous, subgroup in the group of devotees headed by Lord Nityananda. Anyway, we could tell you a whole lot more, but we ran out of time a while ago. So, Hare Krishna. Shri Nityananda Prabhu Ki. Shri Nityananda Prabhu Ki. Shri Nityananda Prabhu Ki. Go Premanande. Haribol. That's it. I wasn't waiting for that. I was waiting for the next thing to happen. Haribol! What's next? Oh.
Shri Nityananda